600,000 people go missing in the United States each year. Tens of thousands remain mysteriously missing.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mysteriously Missing. I'm Justine.
Welcome back. I'm Karen.
We have a quick update for you guys before we get into today's case. About 2 weeks ago, we released an episode on Veronica Casiato, and one of her family members reached out and mentioned that they did find her body.
Her skeletal remains were found in the Eagle Gap Trailhead area in the Cherokee National Forest near where her car was parked. We don't know how far out she was on that trail, but obviously she'd gone hiking. We also have an update from the family member about the sighting of another gentleman in her car.
Right. We had talked about a hunter seeing a male in the car with her, and according to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, that was actually false.
So that was inaccurate, and we send our deepest condolences and sincere condolences to the family and friends of Veronica Casiato, and now they may get closure on this case.
So getting into today's case, we actually have a pretty kind of interesting case. It's about two women. The first one is Carlita Gentry-Lohmeier, and she may also use the last name Patterson, and she is the aunt to Lynn Patterson. And both of these women went missing in Detroit, Michigan. Now, Mia went missing in Detroit on May 30th, 2017. She was last seen in the area between Fenkell Avenue and Plymouth Road, and Mia was never heard from again. And then about 8.5 years earlier, on November 20th, 2009, her aunt Carlita disappeared at a store on Fenkell Avenue and Hubbell Avenue. So pretty much that same area.
Yes, and it's, I'm surprised this case has not gotten national attention. How often is it that you have two family members go missing?
Exactly.
Even if it's 8.5 years apart, they went missing in the same area. They were both last seen on Fenkell Avenue, 3.5 blocks apart. That's about a mile apart. Very interesting. And neither woman had a car. And so they did a lot of walking. So they were both walking to wherever their destination.
It's reported that Carlita was wearing a short jacket with blue jeans and red medium-length crocodile boots. And she does not have any tattoos that we know of and no piercings that were listed. She is 56 years old, and she would be 65 today. She is about 5'4" and 107 pounds. She's African-American and has gray hair and brown eyes.
You know what's interesting is when we get into Mia's case, she has the exact same build. She's about the same height and the same weight. And when you look at their pictures on our Instagram account, and if we put them up on YouTube, they look very similar.
I couldn't tell them apart, honestly.
It's hard to tell them apart. And Carlita looks very young for 56.
She does.
At the time of her disappearance, and they're both very beautiful young women.
And Carlita does have a small scar in the center of her forehead, which was caused by a door when she was little. She got hit in the head with a door. And then her right earlobe is split from where an earring was actually pulled out. And she often wears hair pieces or dark-colored wigs.
Right. So she was a widow, and she left behind 5 children. And her mom, Joyce Hunter, has been very active on her case, speaking out to the press, and she is now in her 80s. Her younger sister, Ingrid, has spent a lot of time looking for her. So November 20th, 2009 was a Friday. It was 50 degrees at a high, 43 at a low. There was no snow, little rain. And Carlita said to her mom she'd be back within a few minutes. She was going to go to the store on Fenkell Avenue, Fenkell and Hubbell Avenue.
Yeah, her mom, Joyce, even quoted saying that she remembers the last word she heard from her daughter was, "Mama, I'll be right back in a few minutes. I'm just going up to Hubbell and Fenkell to the store." And that was on November 20th, 2009, but she never returned, and she has not been heard from since. And then Ingrid, her sister, had driven all around town every day searching for her. There's a quote from her that says, "I used to do it every day. Every day I would do it, every single day," she says.
You know, what's interesting is that was only an 8-minute walk. If you look at our Google map up to the store, how in the world does someone go missing in 8 minutes?
Right. And I mean, if she told her mom that she was planning on coming back, it's not like some people plan to kind of run away and stuff, but...
Yeah, this was not voluntarily
Right.
missing. She was going to the store. She was going to be right back, and there was no reason for her to not come right back. And that's just such a short window of time that someone goes missing.
Yeah. And there's another quote that says, we still celebrate her birthday. We let out balloons at nighttime. We do the same thing almost every year, hoping Carlita will return. And that's just so sad.
Yes. I want to make our listeners aware of the DOE Network, DOE. It's a volunteer organization that assists investigating agencies in bringing closure to national and international cold cases. And so Carlita's case is a cold case. It helps identify the missing and unidentified, and families and anyone missing. Someone could go to this website, and they have sketches. They have plaster casts. They re-enhance the sketches to look like photos of skeletal remains that they have found, that to the best of their ability, to recreate the faces of these missing people. And I think it's a very good resource. All volunteer. They want to expose the cases. That's their purpose. They want to have credible potential matches to the agencies that are looking for these, the law enforcement agencies. And they want to get out media exposure to our missing. And so you can go to that website, and they have cases of the month and then a file on other missing cases. What I found interesting when I went to this website was they had on June 7th, 2010, which is 6 months after Carlita went missing on November 20th, 2009, they had found a woman. She was wearing a wig like Carlita wore, and she was in somewhat the same age range. They have identified her as not being Carlita, but the victim was mummified, and her remains were lying on a mattress in a vacant house at 544 Wilkins Street, and that is about 10 miles from where Carlita went missing. But as I said, it was not identified as her. But when we get into Mia's case, we're going to bring up these vacant houses and some of the crime statistics in Detroit, Michigan. And so let's get into Mia's case.
Yeah, so Mia Lynn Patterson, she went missing. She was 26 years old when she went missing, and she'll be 27 today. She's about 5'3", weighing about 115 pounds. She's African American. She has black hair and brown eyes, and she has really short hair that was wavy and curly. And then it's recorded that she has pierced ears and also a tongue piercing. She also has 3 small tattooed stars in the corner of her eye.
Yeah, and she went missing on May 30th, 2017.
Right. And her mother was Dawn. Her aunt was Ingrid, which was Carlita's younger sister. And then Carlita was also her aunt, who we just talked about, who went missing. And then Joyce Hunter was her grandmother, she's in her 80s.
Right. So when I looked at mylife.com to get a little more information about Mia, I'm not 100% sure this is accurate, but it said she made in the income range of about $70,000 a year, which is quite good money. Mm-hmm. She was single, and it didn't say that she had children. She, on the voter records, it said she was born in 1991, so I'm sure that was her, actually April 13th, 1991. And her address was listed in 1991 at 20301 Ashbury Park in Detroit. And when I looked that up, it's about 7 miles north of her uncle's house. So basically, she's lived in that same area, and I imagine her Aunt Carlita, for all of her life.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to just add that she lived with her uncle, which was her mother's brother, and that was at Plymouth and Mendota.
Right, and when she went walking that day, when she was last seen, it was 2 miles above her uncle's house, which if you calculate that, that's about a 45-minute walk. As we stated, neither of them had cars. So.
Right. And now the day she went missing, her mom said, so this was May 30th, her mom said...
A Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day.
Right. She was quoted as saying, "I'll be back," to her uncle, and they never saw her again. So just like we stated with Carlita, she tells family members, "I'll be back." So she had plans on returning, but never came home. And Dawn, her mom, said this is not like her daughter to just disappear without a phone call to let them know where she is. She just disappeared, and she does suspect foul play and fears Mia is dead.
That's sad.
Yeah, and she's also quoted as saying, "I need for the streets to talk. Just tell me where she is. You can call anonymously."
Yeah, and so, I was looking at Crime Stoppers, and when you do call in there for our listeners, they do not record your number you're calling from. So they do try to keep that very anonymous. So you can call in and leave a message. And if you're assigned a case number, then if there's a reward and something comes from that message, you could actually claim the reward. But they do pride themselves, I think, on keeping it anonymous so that we can get tips. And it seems like we need a lot of tips in both of these cases.
Yeah.
So the weather that day was 79 degrees, so not a big deal with her walking, and there was no rain and just a bit of wind. And her mom said she normally calls her a couple of times a month, which sounds like she's pretty independent. Some people call their mom once a week, but, every other week. And, of course, she hasn't heard from her. Her aunt Ingrid, who also looked for Carlita, says she's driving the streets again looking for her, and now it's a different family member, which is very, very sad.
Yeah, and it's even quoted that Dawn, the mom, says it's almost like deja vu. Her sister went missing and now her daughter. And she also says, "I need for the streets to talk. We put flyers, we question people. You get to questioning them and then they shut down," which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
You start questioning people and...
Well, when you're in an area that might be a bit depressed and there's things that happen and, we haven't even talked about yet what we think might have happened. But if there's crime in that area, which we're going to get into, it probably isn't safe for a lot of people to talk.
Right. Yeah. If someone says something, they'll... Yeah, that's a little sketchy. But Ingrid, the aunt, says, "My biggest fear is that we won't get closure for Mia like we haven't gotten for Carlita. I'm doing the same thing. I go look and I search." So she's still, driving around looking for both of them now, which is sad. And then Mia's mom said she's a very spiritual person and she doesn't feel her spirit, and that she expects foul play.
So she feels like Mia has passed.
Right.
Is not with us anymore. Yeah, the family's leaning on each other for support, and they are relying on their faith to get them through this, and it's been heart-wrenching. It's just terrible. Joyce Hunter, now in her 80s, says, "It takes God, it takes God, it takes prayer. I'm just sad. I wish Mia would show up. I know Carlita's not going to, but I wish Mia would just show up."
That's so heartbreaking, though.
It is heartbreaking. And like I said, this is so unusual. You would think it would get national attention, and we'd like to bring attention to this case.
Yeah.
So they're desperate to find out what happened to them, and they believe the people who know exactly what happened to them both just need to come forward and do the right thing and say something. "You'd be doing such a great deed for our family," Joyce says. "There's so many people lost out there, and it'll give other people hope that they can get closure."
Yeah, and it says that Mia's family and friends are desperate to locate her or even to gain information about her disappearance. So
right.
If you know anything,
right.
anything will help them.
Yeah. So, let's get into the crime in Detroit. That's probably a big factor on what's going on here. There's a significant percentage of housing parcels in the city that are vacant, and that can cause for crime and such. It's a depressed area. Abandoned lots making up more than half of the total residential lots.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
More than half.
Abandoned,
yeah.
Exactly. And with at least 70,000 abandoned buildings, 31,000 empty houses, and we said 90,000 vacant lots. So it's become notorious for its urban blight. So it's a troubled area. Now, the population of the city fell from 1,850,000 in 1950 to about one-third, 677,000 in 2015. So it's gone through a major economic decline. And the city has a combined statistical area of about 5 million people, which is 12th in the United States. The local crime rates are among the highest in the United States. Okay, so in 2013, Detroit had to file a municipal bankruptcy case, and it exited the case in December 10th, 2014. The poverty, crime, and urban blight in Detroit continue to be ongoing problems. So they filed for bankruptcy. The city was going downhill, and although it is reported that poverty is improving, as of 2017, the median household had been rising. Criminal activity is decreasing by 5% annually. And they do have a blight removal project making progress in ridding the city of all abandoned homes that cannot be rehabilitated.
Now, according to the Detroit Police Department, most categories of crime continued to decline in Detroit over the past 12 months.
So they're trying to make some progress.
Right. And overall, reports of violent crimes fell 6.7% in Detroit compared to 2015, and now they're down 9.4% since 2014. And reported carjackings in 2016 went down 39% from the previous year, which is, a good amount. While robberies overall were down by 17.4%. Non-fatal shootings were also down by 8% compared to the previous year. And then reported property crimes overall dropped by 5.3% in the past year.
And even though they're dropping those, citydata.com does say that they still have a huge problem.
Right, yeah. According to citydata.com, it's 5 times higher than the U.S. average, and that's the violent crime rate. And then the property crime rate is 2 times higher than the U.S. average.
So these 2 women walking in their neighborhoods, one at 56 years of age and the other at 26 when they went missing, it's a little frightening, probably.
It is, yeah.
And one thing that comes to my mind is human trafficking.
Right.
These were very beautiful women. They had the same type of body type. And, I just think, were they taken off the streets that very day?
Right.
One on an 8-minute walk, and the other one, that was quite a walk, 45 minutes. And who knows where they went after they were seen. They were seen on Fenkel. Carlita acted like she was going to turn around and come right back to her mom 8 minutes away.
Yeah.
Mia didn't really say. I think she, was younger and just kind of said,
walking around town.
I'll be back.
Right.
Who knows? I could be, gone 5 hours. But very odd that they both went missing.
And it's weird if you truly think about, they both go missing in the same area, and not just the same city, like the same within
blocks of each other.
Exactly.
Last seen, 3.5 blocks.
And part of me thinks whatever happened to Carlita,
they know the family.
Well, maybe they do, but maybe they, the same thing had happened to Mia. Like maybe someone's waiting in that area and picking up.
So it's a target area.
Yeah. Because it just seems so strange that, an aunt and a niece totally 8.5 years apart. It's just so weird.
Yeah. And the abandoned buildings don't make it any better. That if you did have crime in mind, for example, they were attacked, assaulted, that those abandoned buildings make a little haven for the criminal to do these acts. So a sketchy area. And, it's difficult to think that, maybe because it is the same family, that maybe there was a family member that was involved.
Yeah, that's true. Because, 8.5 years later, that's still bothering me 8.5 years later.
But the odds of that happening to the same family just seems very strange. Although we are in a high crime area, so I don't, But I'm sure the police are doing their best to figure this out. And again, it'd be very important for anybody in the local area or anybody with information, and that's over now a 9-year period almost, to go ahead and do anonymously some kind of tip to help this family out. It's just devastating.
Even if you see a car that was in the area that was looking suspicious, anything could help them,
Any tip absolutely helps these people. So we want to give you the contact information for the Detroit police, and they have stated that their heart goes out to this family and they really need witnesses to come forward. So be brave and come forward if you know anything. Their phone number is Detroit Police Department 313-596-5200 or 313-596-2221. And if you want to contact Crime Stoppers, you can do that as well and do that anonymously.
Yeah, and you can also email us at mysteriously-missing411@gmail.com. And then we have pictures on our Instagram like we always do every week. We post pictures of these people, maps of where they were last seen, just to help spread the word and get things out there. We are working on a Facebook page. That's not up and running yet, but we should have that up and running hopefully in the future if we can figure that out. But any information, if you can share pictures, just get the word out there to help this case.
Yeah, please look at the photos of these two women and the maps in the area and see if that, if you have any recollection of what could have happened to them and help out.
Yeah, on our Instagram, just in case I didn't mention it, it is Mysteriously Missing. So if you just look us up on Instagram, you can see all these pictures, and we'll have those uploaded before this podcast is out. But we thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in to all these episodes.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you guys.
Please like, share, subscribe to this podcast so that others can bring more awareness to this case and help family and friends bring their loved ones home.